Sorry.
It's okay. I'm just feeling good today, feeling grand.
Maybe that's how we should start our show. We're starting our show at 6:55.
You
Make
know,
this make us stand out from the rest of it, the rest of the group.
we're gonna get things going. How's it been, sir?
It's been an interesting couple of weeks for me, but I'm doing pretty good. I can't really complain. Just ready to really kick off football season again because I know the season just
Just
ended,
ended.
but I am absolutely ready to start talking football again.
All right, no, I'm right there with you, and it's been an interesting couple of weeks for me. So I'm excited to kind of get back into some football conversations, and then the season kind of again starts back up on March 9th. But yeah, we're just going to go over it. It's Jag Blitz. We're a wonderful little stream show. It talks about anything and everything Jaguars. And tonight we're going to do our last episode in our older format until we transition over to the new format next episode. We've got 3 different topics. Going forward, what we're going to do, it'll be a lot shorter, 10-ish minutes intervals. We'll still do that. That way we've got some stuff, and we don't have to take any weeks off or anything. So tonight.
We're doing this for you.
We're doing
Doing this to you, watchers.
So tonight, what we've got on the docket is we've got the franchise tag. That's a thing right now. And then we're going to go over that. We've got free agency. Starts March 9th. Who are our big targets? And then, of course, we've got the draft. Draft Twitter's live and well. So we'll start off with you, sir. What do you think with the franchise tag? What do you think? How does that affect us?
The franchise tag is going to play a big role in what we do as far as attacking free agent acquisitions because there are a lot of players and a lot of guys that we thought mid-season or towards the end of the season that, okay, hey, these guys will probably be available. We might be able to make some things happen and definitely go after some of these guys. And, of course, towards the end of the season, you start to realize that pool of really high talented, like the high value talented players that you would target are more often than not going to be franchise tagged. I know that, Von Miller is a guy that we were talking about during the offseason as a guy that would, potentially become a free agent. But more often, I think he's going to get tagged, and he's going to get tagged with the swiftness. There are a bunch of other guys that, Olivier Vernon out of Miami, he might get franchise tagged. Is he a guy that deserves it? Not necessarily, but with the position that he plays and the production that he put out this year, it might be one of those things where they might put the franchise tag on him, even if it's just for a year, to see if he can replicate the same type of performance that he had. So it's going to affect the Jaguars in somewhat of a negative capacity, but it still shouldn't be a red flag as if like the Jags aren't going to be able to sign anybody because they are flush with cash. They have the most cap space in the league, and they'll be able to definitely go aggressively after some free agent targets.
No, and I'm right there with you in a sense. The franchise tag, we don't have anybody yet that is going to be not worthy but be deemable as a franchise tag player, potential target. Something that I thought was actually pretty interesting was the last couple of days I've actually had some time to kind of deep dive is just how much players in the league hate the franchise tag, and that they talk about it almost as if it's a slap in the face because I think I was watching Ryan Clark yesterday on the Four Letter Network, and he said players don't want to date a team. They don't want to be engaged to a team. They want to get married to a team. And the franchise tag is like, oh, we want you, but we don't want you. But we don't want to pay you what you think you're worth. But we also don't want you to go elsewhere and get paid. And then, we look stupid for not signing you. So we're going to sign you to this 1-year deal and see if you can replicate what you did last season. As you mentioned, Vernon, Miller, and Barry, I think I'll get tagged fairly quickly. Specifically, more Vernon down in good old Miami because Miami and their salary cap issues that they're going to have if they can't get sued or restructure at all. I think that's what they may do to kind of help things along a little bit. Where I don't think Von Miller gets franchise tagged because I think that they'll probably work something out. Maybe they do. It kind of is going to come down to if Manning decides what he's doing between now and then. Also, with the cap increases coming, it also may be something they may not need to, which also hurts us a little bit because even though we have all this cap space, allowing roughly $15 million being added on to the cap year over year helps those teams that are on that little bubble of cap. Okay, well we can give this individual lucrative deal.
Right.
There are some others that I saw like Alshon Jeffries. Okay, I don't think we're going to be probably needing a top 5 wideout at any point in time. And then, of course, Kirk Cousins for the Washington football team. Again, not really a big deal to us.
It's an interesting situation, though, both with Denver and with Washington having to figure out what they're going to do with the quarterback situation. Because if you franchise tag Kirk Cousins, if you're Washington, you're going to have to pay him $20 million for a season.
Yep.
And do you want to make that kind of investment in a guy that played well in spots, but you're not quite sure is the guy that can really lead your franchise over the next 10 years. And then the same thing with the Broncos. Even though, you have a dominant pass rusher in Von Miller, you also have a quarterback situation. If Peyton Manning hangs it up and Brock Osweiler, he's a free agent, so he could literally go anywhere. Do you risk maybe trying to come up with a long-term deal and maybe lock up, maybe use the franchise tag on Osweiler and then see if you can come up with a long-term deal for Vaughn? I mean, it'll be an interesting situation to see how that plays out.
No, and it'll definitely be interesting. So let's move on. Where do you think for us, what are going to be our big targets? And I mean big targets like that blue chip piece. Let's say last year it was Julius Thomas. Who's going to be, Mike Kay, I think, mentioned a couple weeks ago that he thinks we're going to get one of those marquee players. We won't get a whole slew of them. Who do you think is going to be our big target that we go after?
I think we're going to be targeting Eric Weddle. I think that he's the type of free safety, and even though he's upper in age, he's 30 years old, maybe going to be 31, I think, by the time he signs. He's still a guy that I think can add a lot to this team, specifically in the secondary. And I also think that they push hard for Mario Williams because I think that with the need for pass rushers, you're gonna have to look for a guy who's going to want to go after the quarterback. I know it was said that he was misused in Buffalo and that maybe he kind of slacked off in Buffalo because he wasn't being used to the way he wanted to be used. And I guess that's just to specifically rush the passer. But I think if you just give him a role and say, hey, we want you to get after the quarterback and that is your only job, then I think you can do it. Because keep in mind, he still is a double-digit sack guy, even though he's entering he's going to be 29 or 30 years old coming into the next season. So it's not like he's long in the tooth or anything like that. He could still technically be in his prime. So I think those are the two guys that you'll see targeted. And if Olivier Vernon out of Miami isn't a guy that is franchise tagged, then I think you'll also see the Jaguars really push hard for him as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to go after somebody that Gus is familiar with, so I think Bruce Irvin's high on the list, just because of the relationship with him. Granted, a lot of people think Bruce Irvin may go to Atlanta. I don't know.
Well, the talk on him is kind of cool just amongst the Jag circles because earlier in the season you were like, yeah, it's a given. Bruce Irvin's not going to be back in Seattle and that he would make a really solid fit for the Jags. But then towards the end of the year, you just haven't heard as much about Bruce Irvin and the Jaguars. You haven't really heard that link between the two.
No, and then I saw something that I thought was hilarious was about how that we need to trade for Cam Chancellor.
That's dumb.
And I was sitting there going, no, that's not going to happen. But I would think Bruce Irvin's got to be high on that list, and also Alex Mack, I think, has got to be high on that list. Just because if you're looking at locking up somebody, that's at a marquee position, which center for us, not saying that Wisniewski did terrible, but it was definitely an area of opportunity. If you can lock that up with somebody that was considered a top 5 at their position before they broke their leg with the Browns, I think that's somebody you got to go after. Pass rush, I think, is there. I think they're going to try to we'll get to that. I think they're going to try to address that in the draft, probably more so than just because all the premium pass rushers, whether it's the 2 guys out of Denver, whether it's the guy out of Miami, and then Bruce Irvin may be going elsewhere, so you just may not have that. I think Weddle's there. Because of Weddle's age, I don't consider him one of those blue chip pieces because we got Thomas when he's 28. So you still have some time there. I mean,
He's still a playmaker, and that's why I would
yes,
say it's a blue chip target.
he is. I wouldn't be surprised if we get him and he gets some outrageous deal because we have enough cap space to do it, and they don't really have to. They don't need to divvy out that money anyway to give it away. So I could see that happens because of that. So we'll go into our last segment of the evening, draft. So draft talk has gotten fairly more, we'll call it not lucrative, but more active.
Heated.
Yeah, heated since the actual season for us finished. And I think I've seen just from the professionals, I've seen probably 3 or 4 different versions of who we're getting. So let's go over who do you think is our biggest need, if they're there, versus the want of who you want, if we're able to pick at 5.
All right, biggest need will always and continually will continue to be the pass rush until we have a pass. Guys that can get after the quarterback. So obviously, I think we target a guy like Joey Bosa, maybe Noah Spence, the kid out of EKU, Buckner out of Oregon, Robert Nkemdiche out of Ole Miss. Those types of guys. Even though those aren't necessarily the like Bosa and Spence maybe being higher on the list than the other two that I mentioned, but you need guys that can get after the quarterback. And considering you saw how Denver and their defense and even the Panthers and their defense were able to get after the opponent's quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, you have to be able to get to the quarterback. And so until this Jaguars team can do that, I think you've got to invest a lot of your draft capital on the defensive side of the ball.
Okay, and is that also where your want lies?
Now, my want is a little bit different because I really would want Jalen Ramsey, the corner / safety out of Florida State, and if because I think he's gonna grade out as the number 1 player on a lot of draft boards, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with him because if he does rank out as the number 1 player, he's not going to get drafted first overall unless someone maybe makes a move, because I don't think Tennessee is going to take free safety with their first pick.
Do you think they're going to take offensive tackle, which is what they're being
The
tagged?
rumor is that they're going to take Laramie Tunsil, which is possible, and it's not a bad draft pick, but I think you just drafted Taylor Lewan 2 years ago.
Yeah, they drafted him.
and he hasn't been terrible, but he also hasn't been great. So it'll be different. It'll be interesting to see. And then you also have the quarterback situation. Are you going to see 1 or 2 quarterbacks taken in the first 10 picks, or is one gonna get taken in the top 5? It'll be interesting to see if it's Carson Wentz, Paxton Lynch, or Jared Goff out of Cal. Because you have a situation where Cleveland needs a quarterback. Will they pull the trigger on one? And then same thing with Dallas. Dallas isn't necessarily hurting as much for a quarterback, but they do need a contingency plan behind Tony Romo. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey, I think, would be the dream pick at 5. But if Joey Bosa's there at 5, I wouldn't hesitate in taking him either.
Yeah, I'm fairly similar along these lines. I think if you're going to go through having what we watched in the Super Bowl this past year, and also what we watched the same thing with Seattle and Denver 2 years before that having a really good defensive front can help make up for a lot of the other issues. I mean, Peyton Manning didn't have a very good game, and Cam was okay, but their defensive fronts disrupting the opponent's quarterback really helped mask up some of their issues that they were having on offense. So I definitely think that that's what the team is in need, because, as you mentioned, you don't know what you're getting out of Fowler. You don't know who's going to be available in free agency, pass rush-wise, to really throw some money at. And there's these talks of what do you do with, I think Mike Kay was talking about Scudda and Audric and all that stuff, and where these pieces, kind of fit if you're going to go out and get people. So if you get draft picks, there's not as much pressure for them to start immediately as some sort of free agent person versus who you just signed last year. I wouldn't mind, because I've also seen that middle linebacker or outside linebacker also from what's it called? It's University of Southern, not USC, but
So USC,
UCLA.
Oh, so you're talking about Miles Jack?
Yeah, Miles Jack. That the comparisons there of his athleticism and speed is similar to Telvin. And if we were gonna go there, that wouldn't bother me. I don't think Ramsey's gonna be there at 5. I would love it if Ramsey was there. I just don't think he's gonna fall to 5.
I think my only situation with Miles Jack at 5 is the fact that he's injured. Like he's coming off an injury, and yeah, we know that he's coming off an ACL, and the ACL is not as scary of an injury as it used to be. But I would still have a problem taking an injured player at the top 5, especially even if Miles Jack is well, I guess that would be difficult to say because if Miles Jack is really a transcendent type player, then you would obviously want to take him at 5. But I just feel that like sometimes taking that risk because you feel you need to is dangerous.
I don't know if it's a need. I don't because obviously at linebacker he's linebacking is something to have in the future. I don't think it's a need there. It's just if they were to take it, I wouldn't be like, oh, I can't believe this. I wouldn't be disappointed. I just don't think. Part of me doesn't think that Rams will be there, and also part of me doesn't think Bosa's going to be there. So who do we take? DeForest Buckner. I'm like, okay, his draft stock's only come on. This other guy that you mentioned from this smaller school came out of nowhere, kind of. And part of me just wonders is this really just draft hype?
Yeah.
Is a lot of these people that make their careers off of the draft, the Todd McShays and Mel Kipers and stuff like that. They say, oh, all right, well, let me throw this in because there isn't really that one can't miss, but there isn't that one can't miss. And you already mentioned it. Cleveland sitting there at 2, they would have loved to have been in this draft when Blake Bortles was there and say, all right, here we go. I've got this person. There's not really that quarterback that just leaps out of this year. And I don't know if it's because quarterback play in college football is just down overall, or is it because there just isn't a big name, kid coming out of a big name school, or if it's a combination of the two that there's just because there's usually always that one. But I've seen Goff from UCLA, and then I've seen the other ones too, where it's like, oh, it's this guy, the guy from North Dakota State, and it's just like, okay, well, or the kid from Memphis. It's just like you can interexchange whoever that is into that number 2 Cleveland pick, where part of me just wonders, does Hugh Jackson make a trade for somebody just like he did when he was with the Raiders and said, okay, well, I've got, somebody here, and then I'm going to trade for somebody out there, whether it's a potential Sam Bradford, Nick Foles, even hypothetically, say he goes after RG3 or something, says, hey, you've seen what I've done offensively with these other people. Let's make a deal. But I don't know if the Washington team trades him somewhere that's that close. So who knows?
You're right. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, though.
So, but that's all we've got for this evening. Unless you've got something, sir.
Did you see Allen Robinson go after the Michigan cornerback? That I guess he got that. Really...
Yeah, he got a tat on him.
So
straight up body tat. Right there.
So if you haven't heard the story, Allen Robinson if you haven't heard the story, Allen Robinson was looking at getting a new tattoo, so he decides to get a tattoo today over of a catch that he made over Michigan back in 2013, and. Which is cool. Don't get me wrong. Like you're looking at the tattoo itself, it looked like it hurt.
Yeah, it's right down the ribs.
Yeah, it's right on that rib cage, and it is like right on there. But Allen Robinson, he goes up to make this catch, and then I guess the kid who he made the catch over, the cornerback, decides to tweet at him and says, "Hey, it's like it's all fine and dandy. I think it's funny how you got this." Tattoo of you doing this over this. But if I was in the league, I would be focusing on balling and stuff like that. And then Allen Robinson, in response, takes a picture of him at the Pro Bowl with these two, Hawaiian dancers, and it just tweets aloha and pretty much ethers this kid. And don't get me wrong, I think it's fun when NFL players have a little bit of fun and go back and forth with each other. But I also think this shows a little bit more of Allen Robinson's true nature because he's not a shy rookie anymore. He's kind of
No,
stepping into the role that I think the Jags really wanted him to fill, and that's to be that number one,
Whiteout, yeah.
that wideout. And you're starting to see the diva in him a little
I was
bit,
gonna say a part of
which I
me.
think is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think wide receivers as a whole, the great ones, walk that line of being the diva versus the team player, the guy that says he's always open. And yeah, if he becomes the next To or something, I don't think I would complain. But it's one of those things that I just hope that he becomes somebody that we keep for the career and not gets pegged as that person that disrupts the locker room and stuff like that. So I
I
don't
see. I
mind.
don't. I
I
don't
don't
think
mind
it's
the
gonna be like
antics.
that.
No, I
I,
thought it was great because then afterward, there was a couple of tweets after that. And he's like, "Well, if you would have made the play, though, it would have been different." I'm sitting there going, "Oh my gosh!" So
just
no, that was beautiful. One of those. It just in the world that we live in, where stuff seems so manufactured, or what a term that's thrown out a lot with Orlando City FC, so plastic. It's one of those things to see players have these real human interaction conversations. That's why I really like Mike K a lot too, for the same reason that they have somebody that doesn't have to put on this front all the time. It's refreshing and it's nice to see. And then also, like you said, it's neat. Like, okay, this he has these feelings just like I would if somebody was coming at me. I was just in the Pro Bowl. I was at the top of my, or the second top of the career that I've chosen.
yeah.
So, and somebody's gonna throw shade on me, like, get out of here. So, but
Hey, look, I think that's great. And then the other Jaguar news I would like to kind of discuss a little bit is the retirement of Rasheem Mathis. I know that
mm,
13 years in the league, he spent 8 years or not. No, he spent like what 10 years.
yeah, almost yeah.
Yeah, he spent 10 years here in Jacksonville, and a very very good career. He's a local kid, local product. Went to Bethune Cookman down in Daytona. Was drafted by the Jaguars, had a very productive career here in Jacksonville. Was injured, and they made the decision to kind of let him go. He goes to have pretty
Yeah, two.
three pretty decent good seasons, three pretty decent seasons up in Detroit, and it's kind of sad to see him go because I remember when he was drafted,
Yep,
and
I
I
remember.
remember a lot of the plays that he made. That interception in overtime against the Steelers still stands out as one of the best plays I think I've ever seen. Like just from a Jaguars football standpoint, but he's a guy that'll definitely be missed.
Do you figure that we re-sign him for a day or two so he can retire as a Jaguar, right?
If he wants that. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know his relationship with the current brass. I would love to see him retire as a Jaguar, but you never know. Some guys just want to kind of, look at their career as a whole and not necessarily
Be
focus
local
on.
too. That's fair. Yeah.
It's up to him though. But he still lives in Jacksonville. He's still a Jacksonville kind of guy. You'll see him around town. He's got charities and different things, and
Yeah.
he's kind of like a quiet guy. So it'll be interesting to see what he wants. But I mean, if I would love to see him retire as a Jaguar, that'd be great.
Yeah, to me, he was one of those few players that we had during that era of Jaguar football that was a bright spot of the team.
Hmm.
Him and Mojo, and then there were a few other pieces, or we'll call them flashes here or there. But for the most part, there were those two people that when I would go to games that you'd see, where it was Rasheed Mathis jerseys and Mojo jerseys.
Yeah.
And so, no, it was good. It was good to see, and so that he's finally taking it down. I was kind of a little annoyed that the Detroit Twitter handle kind of did more for him in his retirement than Jacksonville did, but we'll leave it alone at that. It was just one
Well,
of those
but
things.
yeah, you got to keep in mind that that was his that was a he's it's not like he played one. It's not like the situation with Mojo where he played 1 year in Oakland and then called it quits. You know what I mean? He was a part of that Detroit committee for close to 3 or 4 years.
That's fair. So, but no, I think that's gonna be it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Other,
thank you guys
other
for
than
watching.
the Jaguars Twitter handle throwing out free, jerseys today, it's cool. I thought it was
Yeah.
great. You
Yeah,
know,
random act of kindness day. Got to give credit for the social team and the marketing team over at One Everbank Place for coming up with that idea. I think it's fantastic.
no, it was definitely a very unique thing to do, and it's something that when I always tell people, I say, hey, this is why I root for this team, just because of the transparency and the wanting to be involved with fans. You don't see, I don't say you won't ever, but you don't see this from teams that have, diehard fan bases. They're not giving away free signed jerseys to anybody.
Right.
So, but it was good.
I agree.
All right. Thank you all for anybody that was watching us here at Jag Blitz. We will catch us, as I said, new format next week, around 10 minutes. It'll be a lot more, let's say curt, but it'll be a lot more focused and direct as to what we're going to go over. So we can keep doing this every week. Thank you again, sir. It's always a pleasure.
You too, brother.
I'll catch you later.
All right.